topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
I read a poem once that the punchline of which said, "It's tough on a dog when his boy grows up." Let that settle in for a minute. It's tough on a dog when his boy grows up. Yeah, exactly like that. I've had dogs most of my life, and I've had boys who grew up, and trust me, it's tough on the old man when the boys grow up too, but it's really tough on the dog when the boy grows up because he lost his playmate. And sometimes that happens in leadership, and we don't realize it's time to grow up. Sometimes you got to leave them behind. But that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. If you've had a team that you've developed from the ground up, you have those friends and the buddies and the pals and the college grads and all those people that you hung out with all your life. Maybe they're friends like from the block, like Jenny from the block. Like all your life, they've been a part of your life. And then you wake up one day and you realize, if I'm going to move on with my life, I'm about to make some, grown-up decisions. Some decisions that they probably aren't going to make the same way. I remember the old phrase, bros before hoes. So many guys have said that phrase until they found that one girl that they want to make their wife. And suddenly everything in their character changes. And all their friends are like, no, it's got to be bros before. It's got to be bros before. And they fight for it. And they drink a lot. And they argue a lot. And they struggle a lot. And they hate on her. And they create disruption and distraction and division. And they do all that they can to hold on to that thing they had before because they don't really know what life is going to be like when he's not the buddy, the pal, buying the liquor, buying the alcohol, hanging out all night, staying at the club all night, driving him home when he's a designated driver. And when he decides to grow up and be a man, to be a husband, to be a father, to be career-oriented, to have a destiny of his own, suddenly their life falls apart. They don't know what to do without him. Now, if you've ever been the guy that everybody's looking to going, but without you, we don't have our little gang, our group, our hanging buddies. We're nothing without you. But your friends are codependent. And if you're one of the guys in that group that you realize there's one person whose life you lived through vicariously and you've made all your decisions based on where they went to school, where they went to college, what sports they played, who they hung out with, where they went to drink, what they drank, get a life. See, as a leader, we forget that these, I think it was it Bowling for Soup? I think it was Bowling for Soup was the band that wrote the song High School Never Ends. And there are a whole lot of people who go through their life, not just after high school, but right into college or into their military career, right into their professional career at 5, 6, 7, 12, 15 years in. High school never ended. They're in the same cliques. They're hanging with the same people. They're doing the same stuff they did on Friday night when they were 16 that they are when they're 36. That's a problem. That's a problem. You're not as much a productive member of society when you find yourself living the same kind of life you lived 20 years ago. There's more for you, I promise you. But see, as leaders, we forget that sometimes we start an organization. I've coached with pastors who are leading small churches and with businesses who are running small organizations. Both of them have a very similar problem when it comes to leadership, and that is this. When you launch an organization, sometimes you're desperate to find people who are willing to take the risk with you to go, I'll give it a shot. And they're willing to lay down everything, maybe even make some financial sacrifice, some time sacrifice to give you several nights a week or weekends and help you get your thing off the ground. And many of them believe that because they made that sacrifice early on, well, they're in it for the long haul. Listen to any of the rappers, though. They'll tell you those people that hung out with you when you were broke, they feel entitled when you got money. The people who hung out with you when you were broke, they feel entitled when you got money. And it ain't their money, is it? See, the other challenge with that is sometimes we get people in that circle and we rely on their friendship, our relationship with them. We rely on their willingness to stick with us through everything. Even when we mess up, they're right there. And so they hang in as we develop, as we expand, as we take risks, as we invest, as we bring along other investors. But see, the churches and the small businesses both have this one problem. It's really hard to recognize and resolve that wall of incompetence. Because you're going to reach a point where you realize the people who helped you start this thing are not the kind of people who can help you run this thing. I love the way Brandon Dawson says it when he says, there are those people who will come to you and say, I'm a great CEO and I'll work for $250,000. I listened to Brandon coach a lady one time and she said, we've got a great company. We're making about $1.5 million a year. We've got a CEO that we pay about $300,000 a year. And I think we're ready to go to the $5 million mark. And he said, well, you're going to have to get rid of your CEO. And she's like, but he's a great CEO. He said, no, he's not. If he was a great CEO, he would be demanding $1.5 million as a salary. And he would be generating $5 to $6 million for your business. But what you have right now may be a great guy, but he's not a great CEO. And you need to admit that. And you need to deal with that. And before you can go to the next level, you're going to have to get rid of him and find someone who genuinely is a great CEO. And you're going to have to be willing to take the risks to pay the salary necessary for a great CEO if you're going to go from $1.5 million to 5 or 20 or $100 million. See, we don't want to admit that as leaders, that the people around us may not be competent to go with us to the next level. And generally, there's 3 reasons. They don't want to know. They don't want to know all the ins and the outs. They don't want to know all the risks. They don't want to know what it's going to take to actually get there. Oh, they want the accolades. They want the recognition and the riches. If it comes along with, I get to climb in the limo with you. I have a friend who recently spoke on the idea of what $250,000 landing in his lap at a very young age turned into. And he said, trust me, there is no shortage of friends when you're 16 and you don't have a driver's license, but you got a limo. There's no shortage of friends when you can rent out the whole top floor of the hotel and fill it with party. No shortage of friends. But where are those friends when it all hits the fan? When the piper has to be paid, when things come to a conclusion, where are all those people now? Well, they don't want to know what the price is that has to be paid. They don't really want to know all the ins and the outs. They just want to know, can I be recognized? Will I be rich? Will everybody know my name? So number 1 is they don't want to know. Number 2, they don't want to grow. They're not willing to pay the price to be somebody different. They don't really want to put in the effort to get the degree, to get the job experience, to be mentored or apprenticed by somebody else. They don't want to recognize their own flaws and failures. They don't want to step back and go, I'm not really the kind of person who can be your CFO. I mean, your company needs one, and I've always been the one that kind of handled the books, but I don't know anything about tax accounting. I don't know anything about actual bookkeeping. I don't know anything about leveraged investments. I don't know anything about leveraging money to get capital loans or capital raise so that we can take this company to the next level. I watched a guy just recently It was just a highlight on social media, but it was from Shark Tank. And the guy walks in and he says, I want, I think he was looking for $500,000 for 10% or $5 million for 10%. And it was $500,000 for 10%. And they were like, your valuation is way, way high. Have you ever even sold any of these? And he said, yeah, we actually have a contract. And the investment I need is for the manufacturing cost because we have a contract pending. And they're like, okay, well, how big is that contract? What's it worth? Why would we bother to invest in a company that hasn't even manufactured one yet? And he said, well, because our contract is over 10 years and it's worth over $8 million. So for $500,000 of production costs to help us get up and get these presented, we know we can make $1.5 million to $2 million every year in gross sales from this one client. And once we get the product out there, we know it's going to sell. Okay, you don't get those kind of numbers, those kinds of opportunities when you got your high school buddies hanging out with you getting this project done. They may be your friends, they may be your pals, they may be your buddies, but if they don't know how to take you to the next level, they don't know what they don't know. And they don't really want to know. They just want to hang out. They want to go fishing. They want to have a drink. They want to have a Friday night out. And they're trying to help you get that success so they can have more of that. They don't really want to grow. They don't want to grow up and go, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be more disciplined. I'm going to leave behind my t-shirts and tennis shoes, and I'm going to put on a coat and tie from time to time because that's what the protocol requires at this level. They don't want to grow there. Or they just don't want to go there. They don't want to become that kind of person. They don't want to grow into that kind of person. And they don't want to follow your destiny because they want their own. Now, trust me, all three of those are hard decisions. They don't want to know. They don't want to grow. They don't want to go. As a leader, you've got to figure that out. And sometimes they don't know that themselves. They're not aware that they're unwilling to know, to grow, or to go. They just think this is life as it is. I mean, I would challenge you to go back and watch some of the stardom of our young Disney stars. The brothers, Zach, that played in the movie where or the show where they were always in the hotel room. Well, those two boys have grown up now. Jake Paul and Logan Paul, and they have their own lives now. But I'd be curious to see how many of the people they hung out with when they were 10, 12, 15 years old are still in their circle of friends. How about the guys who become rising stars in any of the major sports, NFL or the NBA or NBA or MMA? How many of those people have the same circle of friends they started with? I remember Rocky Balboa had his trainers and his coaches and the people that were in his ring and the people who watched out for him. But at every level that he advanced, he added somebody else to that mix. He had to, because you can't compete at the next level with the same talent and quality that you have right now. You're going to have to be better. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to know things you don't know. You're going to have to go places you've never been before. You're going to have to embark in relationships and take enormous risks. That's part of growing up. That's part of doing business. That's part of living in this world. If you're okay with the status quo, you don't have to know any more than you know. You don't have to grow any more than you've already grown, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay right where you're at. Trust me. I grew up redneck in a small town, and there are people my older sister went to high school. There are people who were teaching in a high school in that small town that still have the same truck they had when I was in high school. They still live in the same house they lived in when I was in high school. They still teach in the same place as when I was in high school. And they're content with that. There are also people that I went to high school with that own multi-million-dollar companies, have finished and retired from their military careers, have moved on with their life. They inherited land and they run that land, or one of them that I played high school football with now runs the entire golf course. That's perfectly fine if that's what you want out of your life. There are some, though, that they can't get out of that town because they don't know what it means to know more, to grow more, to go further, to get out of that. They just don't know what they think at the edge of the city limits, you just fall off the earth. Now, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know the kind of people that I'm talking about. They're also, sadly, When we talk about the proverbial crab in the bucket, the one that when you get your one claw up over the edge and you're about to get that second claw up over the edge and find freedom, and you rise up and see there's a whole new world out there. They're the ones that grab your legs and yank you back into the bucket. Partly because they're jealous that you're getting free, but mostly because, well, they don't want to be alone. They'd rather you be in the bucket with them and be miserable than that you be free, that you move on to the next things. They don't want to know, they don't want to grow, they don't want to go, they want to stay in the bucket. And there are people in your life and people in your organization like that right now. Those startups and those small churches, they tend to hire the people who are first available, first volunteers, the first ones to step in and go, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I don't like the job. I don't really want the job. I'm not really qualified for the job, but there's nobody else. So let me have the role. So you give them the title, you give them the responsibilities, you give them the opportunity. They step up, they kind of do it for a minute. And then suddenly, as your organization grows, somebody comes along and you're like, that person is eminently more qualified for the role that my friend is in. But now you have a power struggle because your friend didn't really want the job in the first place. They were just the first volunteer. And now they won't give it up. Trust me, I've worked with organizations that are filled with people in roles that don't fit them. Not from a personality standpoint, not from a qualification standpoint, not from a passion standpoint. They're not even competent at the job. But the accolades, the recognition, the awards, maybe the riches that come along with that job, the power that comes along with that title and being in that circle of leadership is more than they're willing to give up to let the person who's competent and appropriately fitted for that job to do the job. I've also been in the place as the leader where people believe that they should have the job that I've been assigned to, been appointed to, been hired for. And that power struggle is real as well. Some of those people don't want to know. They don't want to grow and they don't want to go. They just want to be in charge. They want the command and control without all the risk and sacrifice that goes along with it. If you're a leader and you find yourself in that position, the position that people on your team are filling slots that they're not competent for, you may have to leave them behind. If you find yourself in a team where there are people who are just more determined to stay right where they are, I don't want to grow up, I don't want to go any further, stop trying to make this thing expand, stop trying to make this thing bigger than it is, we're perfectly happy right where we're at. Well, then it might be time for you to go. Because maybe the organization that you're leading is perfectly happy not moving at all. They don't want to expand. They don't want to grow. They don't want new product opportunities. They don't want new client opportunities. They're not happy with expansion at all. They're perfectly content to stay where they are. They believe the edge of town, the edge of the limits they have right now, the budget they're operating within, the customers that they serve, the products they provide, that's the end of the world. And if you go past that, who knows what can happen next? There'll be dinosaurs out there, and to them you're tasty. You have no idea what's coming. Well, that's what innovation is all about. Spend an hour listening to Elon Musk and some of the bizarre things that runs through his head. He's not far off from Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein or Thomas Edison, some of the inventors at the turn of the century who came up with ideas that we kind of look at now and go, I don't know how you accidentally thought of that. Well, they didn't accidentally thought of that. They were committed to the process of thinking. They wanted to know more than they know now. They were willing to grow. They were willing to make mistakes. Thomas Edison said, I didn't find 10,000 failures at making a light bulb. I found 10,000 ways not to make one. And along the way, other inventions that were not a light bulb. That's a powerful reality. But see, the people who don't want to know, grow, or go, they're not going to run into those things. They're not going to accidentally wander into world innovations. They're not going to stumble upon ideas that could bring about world peace or solve the problem of hunger or overcome the divisions in our cultures and societies. They're perfectly content right where they are. And if they are unwilling to be led by you into a new idea, a new awareness, a new universe, then you're going to have to decide, do you go without them or do you stay just like them? Well, that's going to be up to you. I realize this can be friends, this can be family, this can be your inner circle, this could be your community, your HOA, the city you live in, the county you live in, the state you live in, the country you live in. Could be your multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation. And you have people in your leadership circle who don't want to know, go, or grow. They just want to stay with status quo. As a leader, you're going to have to decide. Do I stay with them? Do I move on? Are these my people? Or is it time for me to move on? And just like the 20-something who's saying, I've hung out with the same guys since I was a freshman in high school. Now I've finished my college career and I'm hanging out with the same guys, but there's this girl and none of them like her. There might be a reason for that. It might be she's not the right one for you and they know you better than anybody else. It might be she is the right one for you and they're terrified they're going to lose you. You've got a tough decision to make. But if they don't want to know what's in your future, they don't want to know what it's going to take to sacrifice for you to find your destiny. They don't want to grow. They don't want to grow up. They don't want to grow into someone new. They don't want to take on new challenges. They don't want to take on new education. They know what they know. They've already grown as far as they're going to. I'm all grown up. I'm not doing any more. And they don't want to go where your destiny is leading you or calling you. Maybe it's time to leave them behind. It's 3 really good reasons as a leader that you need to move on. You need to jettison. You need to cut bait. Not easy to do. Hard choice to make. Harder to follow through with. But if your destiny is going to be what you're designed for, it's going to be absolutely essential that you be willing to say, if you don't want to know and you don't want to grow and you don't want to go, then goodbye. Hello to my destiny. I'm leaving yesterday behind. Tough call, leader, but it's on you to do that for your personal life, for your organization, for your community, for society as a whole. It's the reason the major changes and advances have been made all over our world at every level, from medicine to the military, from civics to cultural change. When people don't want to know, grow, or go, status quo takes over. We don't have time for that. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.